Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Clothes for Maintenance podcast. If you're new here, I'm Natasha. I'm 37, a single mom, and rebuilding my life in real time for what feels like the 1 millionth time. This podcast is a space where we slow down, tell the truth, and let God meet us right where we are right now while we do the work of maintenance from the inside out. Today's episode is a really personal one. I've been thinking a lot lately about what it means to actually live again after spending so much of life in survival mode and learning how to breathe again when you didn't even realize you were holding your breath. So that's what we're going to talk about today, learning how to live again after living in survival mode. Now, before I get into what that's looked like for me personally, I want to give a little context, especially if you're new here or new to me. I didn't grow up in a family that took a lot of family vacations or did a lot of things for the sake of joy. I saw my parents working, providing, doing what they had to do to keep everything going and afloat, and I'm super grateful for that. But what I didn't really get to see was them enjoying life. It just always felt like survival first and maybe enjoyment later if there was time or money. And I don't even think they meant to model that. It was just the reality of life at that time. But what I've realized recently is that somewhere along the way, I picked that up. And at 37, I find myself doing the exact same thing. Working, handling responsibilities, taking care of what needs to be taken care of, but not really living, not really enjoying anything, just pushing through. And last year, something shifted for me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a big breakthrough moment. It was more like a quiet realization that life isn't suddenly going to slow down or get easier one day. There isn't some future version of my life where everything is finally handled and then I can start living. And I realized if I don't learn how to live now, I might spend my whole life just surviving. So I started making small changes in my life, not big, impressive changes, just more intentional ones. And in a very strange way, I feel like I've started learning how to breathe again. So today I want to share what that's looked like for me, not as someone who has arrived or is even making more money, but as someone who is learning in real time. Let's talk about it. Hey, you guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Clothes for Maintenance podcast. I'm super excited about this episode. After our season 3 premiere, episode 13, I think, we talked about getting back up again. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to talk about in this episode, but as I was reflecting on my week last week and also looking through my prayer journal, which, by the way, if you don't have one, go get one. It's the NU journal. I published this last summer for my birthday, on my birthday. And I was just thinking the other day of one of the things that this has really done for me recently, especially, is it's given me a space to go back and look at answered prayers and just kind of see and reflect on some of the transitions that have happened and some of the things that have happened in general. And in doing my reflection last week, I realized that I've been learning to breathe again. Sometimes when we have gone through life transitions, I don't care if it's a little bit of transition or a lot of transitions, small transitions, big transitions, we can sometimes get so wrapped up in transitioning and healing and all the things that we forget to enjoy the life that's already in front of us. And so I am super excited today to talk about just kind of some of the practical ways I have been learning to breathe again, kind of enjoy life more and not just let life tell me what it's going to do. Okay. And so before we get into the episode, I want to thank y'all so much for all of y'all support. for subscribing, for sharing, for reaching out to me via DM, text message, just in response to last week's episode. I didn't realize how many people were actually starting over again, rather it be after a breakup or a job change or a career shift or just mentally and spiritually moving from one season of life to another. And so it was really refreshing and encouraging to hear from so many of you in that regard. And so if you're new to me, if you're new to this podcast, if you're like, girl, who are you and what are you talking about? I want to give a little bit of history or context about kind of how I grew up and what I witnessed as a child, a teenager, and even as an adult growing up. I don't recall taking many family vacations outside of like Girl Scout trips. And occasionally we would go like on, family camping trips or things, but if my memory serves me right, I didn't grow up in an immediate family where we took a lot of family vacations. I just primarily saw my dad going to work, my mom going to work when our schedules would allow, because my mom was the type of mom, if her job conflicted with her children, she wasn't working the job. And so shout out to you for that, Mom. But I didn't grow up in a dynamic where we really enjoyed much of life. And at 37, I feel like, especially as a single mom, I have really allowed life to just kind of try to swallow me up. I am always just working, trying to make ends meet, trying to figure out this thing, that thing, maneuver this thing, that thing. It just kind of feels like whiplash. And it wasn't until last year, really, my partner and I, we took a lot of trips. We went to a lot of things. We enjoyed life. And that was kind of his thing that he introduced me to. So I'm really grateful for that. It really opened my eyes to the reality that life is just not going to get easier. As we can see from what's happening around us, the world is not going to become lighter, better. It's not going to present us with an easier way of living. And last year, I enjoyed my life more than I ever have in my adult years. And it wasn't because my bills miraculously stopped. It wasn't because I started earning so much more money. I did earn a little bit more money because I got hired on my job permanently. But overall, I wasn't making six figures. I still don't make six figures. And my bills are still rolling around, sweetheart. And so when I was reflecting last week on where I am in life and asking myself the question, are you actually enjoying life despite your circumstances? I realized that living is a choice. Last year, I chose to live life more. I chose to not allow what wasn't working out, how much money I wasn't making, to stop me from getting out and making the decision to enjoy it. And getaways and vacations aside, I want to create a life or build a life with God that I don't feel like I have to escape from. When I look back at last year, I was always looking forward to the weekend. I was always looking forward to the trip. I was always looking forward to the concert. I was always looking forward to something. And I realized that prior to last year, I didn't position myself to have anything to look forward to. And I realized that breathing again, living again is not based on how much money you make. It's not based on where you live. I know these things factor into it, but I just personally believe that life is going to life, the world is going to world, Satan's going to do what Satan does. And if we are not careful, the one life that we get to live, we will become so consumed with the hardships and the challenges that we won't really get to enjoy all of the beautiful things that God has literally created for us to enjoy. Like in the last year or so, I've had this obsession with sunrises and sunsets. If you follow me on social media, you notice every now and again, I will post a picture of a beautiful sunrise or sunset. And I've just been in awe of just the very, I won't say basic because there's nothing basic about a sunrise or sunset, but things that I didn't notice before about just nature and things that we pass by subconsciously every day. I've stopped to smell the flowers. You know that saying where you say stop and smell the roses. I think we should really pause and consider if we're actually doing that. And I think if you shift your perspective to say it's not about what I have or don't have, it's about what I'm choosing to enjoy and the air I'm choosing to breathe, even if it's temporarily, it'll just change so much. I feel like it'll regulate our nervous systems. It will help us to be more clear headed, to be able to hear from God. And when I think back to the life that I enjoyed last year, it was amazing that even if it was a weekend trip, when I would come back, I feel so much more clear headed. If it was me putting the computer down, putting the phone down, and going to an event or something outside of my normal day to day, I felt like I was immersed into a different world temporarily, but it shifted my perspective. It exposed me to things that I wouldn't have seen if I would just stay home all the time, if I wouldn't expose myself to certain people and certain things. When I was thinking about what to talk about today, I wanted to talk about how to learn to breathe again. Because if you're anything like me, you're an overthinker, always thinking about what's next. You're always 10 steps ahead. And that could be real stressful. And so I want to talk to you today and share, because I don't always just want to like motivate y'all and encourage y'all. I want to actually share practical things that I'm personally doing. And if these things work for you, great. I would encourage you to at least explore them because they have truly, truly helped me. And I'm going to just say this, nothing has drastically changed in my life, y'all. Like, I'm not earning any more money than I was last year. I'm not living in a better living situation. I'm still between my parents' house. Yes, at 37, still in between my parents' house, but that works for me. I want to talk about that in another episode, by the way. But my point is, nothing has actually really changed in my surroundings and my circumstances. But I am finding joy in the things that are already available to me and also positioning myself to experience joyful moments. I want to share with you a few practical ways that I'm learning to breathe again. The first thing is I'm choosing joy before my circumstances change. I used to think that joy was something that would come when my life got easier, when I started earning more money, when my retirement looked a certain way, when my 401k looked a certain way, when I was in the right relationship, when I was married, when I was living in my dream place or my dream home. I thought joy would come after all of these things that I had on my vision board. But somewhere in the book of Nehemiah, he reminds us that the joy of the Lord is our strength. That tells me that joy isn't the reward of struggle, but it's what actually carries us through. That joy is something that's available to all of us, and it has nothing to do with our circumstances, with our bank accounts, with our economic status, with how we grew up, where we grew up. It has nothing to do with that. I believe that as believers, first of all, we by default have joy because of who we believe in and who we put our trust in. But I also believe that joy is the thing that does carry us through, and we don't have to wait until we get to a finished goal or to an accomplishment to enjoy joyful things and to receive joy. Joy is available now, and I'm learning to receive it. I have to remember that joy is a choice and it's not based on my circumstances. The second practical way that I'm learning to breathe again is doing things that don't produce anything. And if you are a recovering girl boss or boy boss or whatever, if you're a fellow listening, I am so used to making everything about my bottom line. I'm so used to trying to figure out how to monetize everything, how to make everything make sense. And what what has been helping me a lot is focusing on new hobbies, things that maybe I wouldn't have made time for because it doesn't equate to monetization, or it doesn't help me to get further in my career, or it doesn't equate into something that would necessarily benefit me on the surface. This is something that I'm still working through because I'm a content creator. I think that is a gift that God has given me. And so I think my natural bent is to get an idea or be living life and be like, oh, this will make for good content. Oh, this will make for a good vlog. Oh, this will make for a good TikTok. And although y'all do see me, sharing a lot of my life, there's still so much that I don't share. For example, I have this new love for coloring books and puzzles. And it's not something that I post. It's not something that I share a lot of. You'll probably mostly see me reading books or going to the park. Those are things that I've been sharing, but I have been finding like hidden activities that I have been enjoying, and also just like leaning into the unfamiliar. So for example, the other night, I randomly took my sister and my son out to like a local, I don't want to call it a bar. It's like a family restaurant. Kids were in there too. And they had bingo night. And at first, my sister was like, y'all want to play? And I was like, no, I don't really want to play. I just want to eat. And then it hit me. Why won't you play? It's a free bingo game. Why don't you play? We had the best time. We didn't win anything. But just for a moment, it felt really good to be in the moment, not feel like I have to post in real time, not feel like I have to be or do anything other than be with my family. And it was really, really, really good for my soul. I know it was good for my sister's soul and my son's soul. And so it was just really a beautiful thing. So yeah, like I didn't grow up again seeing much life enjoyment. I grew up seeing work, survival, bills, repeat. And as an adult, I find myself doing the same thing. Creating, posting, working. It's like a vicious cycle of you do the thing, you make the money, you spend the money on the bill, and then you start the cycle all over again. And so while I am a creator, I feel like that's just a part of who I am. I'm learning to have some things that I keep for myself that are not work related, that are not career related, that are not in any correlation to my brands. It's not money making activity. It's just literally an escape for me. Mentally, it gives me a chance to be with my loved ones, my family, be present in the moment. I'm learning that peace doesn't always come from doing more. Sometimes it comes from doing less on purpose. And so if you are like me and your brain is always moving 100 miles an hour, if you are the person that takes your laptop on every vacation, I'm not calling nobody out. And look, I'm not judging you because I used to do it. I want to encourage you to find some things, set aside some vacations where it's literally all about who you're with in that moment and about detaching from the nuances of day-to-day living and actually leaning into where you are and what you're experiencing in that moment. If you are anything like me or an overthinker, always trying to get ahead, always trying to optimize time, I just want to encourage you to set aside some time, some trips, some activities for yourself, for the people that you're around, and just kind of lean into the moment. Because if not, you'll feel like you're standing in the middle of a highway and everybody and everything is just passing you through. And so one thing that I feel like I've been doing a better job at is detaching, leaning into who I'm around and what I'm around in that moment, and learning that like rest is not to be earned. I was brought up in this you sleep when you're dead culture, and I think that's the problem. I think that's why so many of us have anxiety. That's why so many of us don't know how to rest, is because we feel like nothing will be there for us after a nap, after a vacation, after an unplug. And so all of the practical tips that I am sharing with you are things that take practice. It takes reminding. I have to sometimes remind myself, you don't have to create content. You don't have to take your camera. You can record this, you can take a picture, but share it later. And so it's something that I have to constantly train my brain to understand. We can take a day off. We can take a couple hours off. We don't owe anyone content in the sense of that it'll take away from the experience, that it'll take away from the bonding time with whoever you're with. It's just not worth it. The next practical way that I'm learning to breathe again is I have been making space to live again instead of just like periodic escapes like weekend vacations. And so I know I've talked about trips and vacations a lot and things like that. But essentially what I want to really share with you is that you have to literally make space in your day-to-day life so that your life doesn't feel like something that you're trying to escape from. So I don't know about y'all, but and it could be just the culture and the environments that we're in, where we're always looking forward to Fridays. We're always looking forward to the next vacation, the next trip, the next escape. And one thing that I'm learning to do practically in my day-to-day that helps me to not want to escape my normal day-to-day life outside of a vacation or getaway is for example, not overcrowding my schedule. Because one thing that used to happen to me a lot is that I would want to optimize the day so much that I would overcrowd my schedule just to have a day off the next day, or just to feel like if I did take the day off the next day, I wasn't wasting time the day before. And what has helped me out so much more is pacing myself. When I was a full-time entrepreneur, one thing that I did that I'm so grateful that I did was I didn't take meetings on Mondays. I did not rush into my week. And even now as a corporate girly, I still try not to do that. When I'm like trying to figure out what things I need to do at work that need to get done within the week, I don't typically put them on my schedule or on my calendar for Mondays unless it's like a meeting with my manager or something that I have to do. But if it's like little nuance task or things that I'm not like, it's not urgent, I will not schedule it or put it on my task list for a Monday. And I try to do that with my appointments. So doctor's appointments for me and Tyler, I try not to do on Mondays unless those are the only days available. Lunches and brunches and dinners with my friends, I try not to do at the front of the week. I try to do closer to the end of the week when I have a little bit less pressure at work, when we've made it through the hump day. So realizing that no tomorrow's not promised, but give yourself space for tomorrow is kind of been my motto. And so not overcrowding my schedule, saying no, and not living in with a scarcity mindset that if I don't get it done today, it's never going to get done. No, I feel like if you don't overcrowd your schedule, if you do start to say no, you leave space later for whatever it is that you put off on any particular day or at any particular time. Making space to live again, to breathe again in your day-to-day life does not have to equate to a trip or a vacation. It's what can you do in your day-to-day life to make your day-to-day life more enjoyable, to be able to exhale and not feel like a noose is around your neck every day because your schedule is up to here every single day. You feel anxious, all the things. So that is just another practical way that I'm learning to breathe again. So the next thing is that I'm learning to live now and not later. I don't want to look up one day and realize that I survived my life, but I didn't live my life. I decided that I had to stop postponing my life, waiting for the perfect conditions. Because if I look at my life as it is today, as I'm recording this episode, from the outside looking in, I don't got nothing together. I don't have a house. I don't make a lot of money. My career seems very tipsy topsy turvy. Nothing seems very certain. If I look at that, far from perfect condition, right? And so society would tell me, girl, you just need to stay in the house and you just need to keep your head to the plow and keep your head down and do the work, and you'll get to do all the fun things later. You'll get to go to that beach later when you get your finances all the way in order, when your credit is 800 plus. You could do that. And it's just like, but really though, like, I know that we should steward our money and all the things well, but I think that a trick of the enemy is to make us feel like we don't deserve to enjoy a lot of times the things that's free because we aren't where we think we should be. And the sobering thought that came to mind was that you don't get more than one life. You get one life. And if you literally continue in this vicious cycle, you will have lived this life and look up and say, what did I actually do? Because none of us are guaranteed the goal on our vision board. None of us are guaranteed to make the amount of money that we hope to make. None of us are guaranteed to have the influence and the impact that we hope to have. And so what are you going to do in the meantime? Just sit stagnant? Just say, oh, well, I don't deserve to enjoy the things that literally are right outside my front door. What I will say is this, is that life isn't guaranteed. Circumstances may not dramatically change, and waiting can turn into postponing your entire life. And that saddens me. It scares me. And that is, I think, the heart behind why I wanted to share what I'm personally doing in this season of my life to breathe again, to enjoy life more, not carelessly, not recklessly, but with discernment and faith to know that you can enjoy life and you can also achieve your goals and you can also stay disciplined at the same time. And so I have this goal that I set, and I don't think I've shared it publicly yet, but I have a goal this year in 2026 to either travel somewhere or experience something, at least one new thing every month for the year of 2026. I'm super excited about it. So I've got this note in my phone where I have every month, and then for every month, I either put like, for example, this month is Black History Month. I've never been to the African American Museum here in my city in Charleston, so I plan on going there one Saturday this month. That's my thing for this month. In the month of March, we are going on what's now our annual family camping trip. So last year, this was something really random that I did. It was my mom's birthday, first weekend in March, and I had a few extra dollars. And so I booked us a weekend stay at our local KOA campground. And we stayed there for 2 nights, a weekend. And I was like, we should do this twice a year. We should do it once in March when it's really cold, and then go again like at the end of the summer, early fall, when we can enjoy the outside a lot more. And we did that in March last year and in September. And we're doing it again this year in March and in September. And then in April, I'm going to New York City. And then in June, I'm going somewhere on a girls' trip for my birthday. And so every month, I am trying to put one thing on the calendar that is, it doesn't necessarily even have to be travel. It can be going to a city surrounding where you live, somewhere where you can drive. It can be something in your city that maybe you have never done or explored before. It could be a cooking class. It could be whatever. But that is my 2026 goal, is to do something every month that will help me to stay in touch with life, that will help me to stay in touch with nature, that will help me to stay in touch with all of the blessings around us that maybe sometimes we just are too busy or tied up with the realities of life to pay attention to. And so I know you're probably like, girl, all that sounds nice, but I just don't have the money and I don't have the space to budget it. I get it. I get it. I get it. But what I'm sharing with you is not about making more money. It's about being creative. It's about being intentional, and it's about being present. Breathing again isn't about just money. It's about making the intentional decision that you are not just going to work and survive in this life. And so I want to share just really quick a couple of, I don't want to call these hacks, but things I'm doing or using, tools I'm using to make this more accessible. Because again, you're talking to a girlie that does not make 6 figures. You're talking to a single mom. You're talking to someone who is still trying to figure out her living arrangements. But I am still working towards my goal. I just paid my car off at the end of last year. I'm already on to my next financial goals. And so I got my priorities straight for the most part. However, I am still enjoying life. I am still having things to look forward to. And I'm going to talk about travel because that's my goal for the year. But the bottom line is, whatever it is that you want to do or explore to breathe again, to live again, look at creative ways. Ask ChatGPT, tell it your situation and say, hey, if I want to do X, Y, and Z, can you give me some creative ways to actually make it happen? And I don't know about y'all, but it feels really good to start marking some things off of my things I want to experience list, right? Not just writing down the plan or the goal or the idea or the desire, but actually making the steps to make it happen. So for me, again, I'm talking about travel because that is my goal. That is the thing that helps me to feel like I can breathe again. So one tool that I found recently is this app called Airfordable. This is not sponsored yet, but Airfordable, if you want to sponsor your girl, here we go. I use it for the first time for my New York trip. One thing I can say is that I feel like a trip isn't planned until you book the flight. And coming up off of sometimes $200, $300, $400 for a flight is hard for us. And so Airfordable allows you to book your flight, through whatever the airline is that has the flights available, and you pay a deposit towards the flight, and then they break the remaining down. And I think I'm doing like 3 payments. And so for my April trip, my flight will be fully paid for, I think by mid-March. And then of course, if I split it into 2 payments, I would be paying more and I would get it sooner. And it's not like this huge price increase. The app does not run a credit check. And so I booked my first flight for my April trip. And after that, I used booking.com, also not sponsored. I used booking.com to reserve my hotel room. So between now and when my trip happens, I can be putting money aside for the rest of my flight and for my actual hotel and any spending money. And so it doesn't feel overwhelming. It allows me space to budget, to stay within my budget, and to not wait until that paycheck before the trip to have to spend the whole paycheck. And then when you come back, all your bills behind, right? And so that's why I say it's not even about making more money. It's about using what you have and maneuvering in a creative way so that you can enjoy life despite your circumstances, despite your environment, despite your challenges. Another great tip as far as travel is concerned are planning weekend trips. If you are a corporate person like I am, you don't want to use all your PTO on vacations. I mean, it would be nice if we could, but I know I don't. Especially when you have a child, you have to kind of be mindful and save some time. And so planning weekend trips, so maybe taking a half-day PTO on a Friday and going wherever you're going and coming back on Sundays is totally possible. Another thing that I do is I keep a running list of places or things that I want to experience or go to. And like, for example, by the time I booked my New York trip, because fun fact, if y'all don't know, I used to live in New York, but there's so much I didn't experience while I lived there. And so I had this running list of things I had seen on TikTok or places I want to go or museums I want to visit. And so on my weekend trip in April, I'm going to literally go to all of those places, and I booked my hotel within walking distance of each of those places. And so keep a running list of things to do. And then when you do plan, you can get more done or less done if you want in one trip. And I don't know, I'm just really excited about that. So again, it's not even about travel per se. Again, it's about choosing joy and not postponing life anymore, because I feel like we all deserve to enjoy the one life that we're given. And so I want to end with this. Living now might not be a trip for you. It might be trying a new hobby. It might be starting a new tradition with your kids. Whatever it is, I want to encourage you to enjoy life more without guilt. I think essentially that is the message here, is that this isn't an episode for people in a certain tax bracket. This is not for people who are, like my girl Lynn on YouTube says, single and no kids. This is for if you got kids, not kids, married, not married. Whatever your life circumstances, whatever your demographic is, this is for us all. One thing we all have in common is that we all have one life. And the world right now is so chaotic. It's so much sad things happening. The economy's crap. The job market is not great. People are not being kind to each other. So I just kind of feel like the least you can do is say, okay, I may not have a lot of money saved up. I may not be in the house I want yet. I may not be in the career that I dreamt of, but I'm going to make the choice today to actually enjoy the life that I have while I have it. And I think that is one of the best decisions that I could have ever made, because I always tell people the world could be falling apart around me, but I'm going to still have joy, because my joy does not come from my circumstances. My joy comes from the Lord, and He is my strength. And I believe the Holy Spirit is who gives you the insight, the wisdom, who will drop the resources in your lap. Like Air Affordable, I found through TikTok randomly. And had I not made the choice to say, I want to travel more this year, I'm going to travel more this year. Holy Spirit, help me. And all of these resources and ideas and creative strategies started to come to mind to make it actually happen. I could easily allow life to make me depressed, to make me even more anxious than I already am sometimes, and to be walking around with a chip on my shoulder and a woe is me attitude. I do not want that life. And I do not encourage you to want that life either. So you don't have to leave your life to start living it. You may not be able to change your circumstance right now, but you can start changing how you live inside of your circumstances. So before we close the day, I want to introduce something I'm so excited about and something that I feel the podcast has been building toward since we started it a couple years ago. So if you've been here for a while, you know CFM has always been about, first things first, slowing down, telling the truth, and paying attention to the places in our lives that need care. And lately, I've been realizing just how easy it is to keep moving, to keep functioning, to keep showing up without actually checking in with ourselves. So from now on, each and every episode, we're going to end with something I'm calling a maintenance check. Just one question to help us pause and be really honest with ourselves before we go back into our lives. Because this right here isn't about fixing everything. It's about not ignoring the signals. So here's today's maintenance check. If your life had a maintenance light on it right now, what would it be signaling? Personally, if my life had a maintenance light on it right now, it would probably be signaling emotional maintenance. It's been one of those weeks, y'all, where a lot of heavy things are happening all at the same dang on time. My aunt was in the hospital, and although I didn't get to go see her physically, it's been weighing on me a lot. Tyler's been to urgent care twice in the last several weeks, and I am still letting go of someone who I thought would be in my life a lot longer, trying to stay present while also still rebuilding. And I think sometimes we just don't realize how much we're carrying until our body and our spirit start begging for a pause. So this week, my maintenance looks like slowing down, trying to be more kind and gentle with myself, and not pretending I'm unaffected when I actually am, because I really am. This isn't fixing everything. It's just not ignoring the signal. And if you're listening or watching, I want you to sit with that question too. You don't have to solve it today. Just don't ignore it. Thank you for being here. I'm super grateful for your support and for you being in this space and rebuilding with me in real time. If you have not yet, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and share this episode with a friend. And until the next episode, I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.